Welcome, dear viewers. Today we reveal the most absurd defeat ever suffered by a true military genius. The great Napoleon Bonaparte had just conquered the vast continent of Europe in 1807. He was an invincible emperor, a ruler deeply feared by powerful kings and massive enemy armies. Yet, his greatest humiliation did not come from shining swords, but from thousands of fluffy little rabbits. How exactly did a simple hunting trip transform into a truly terrifying retreat? Let us find out. The year is 1807. The highly prestigious Treaties of Tilsit have just been officially signed. The mighty French Empire now stands proudly at the absolute pinnacle of global military dominance. Napoleon Bonaparte is no longer a general, he is the undisputed master of Europe. According to historical records, the emperor's grand court desperately wanted to celebrate this victory. Chief of Staff Alexandre Berthier decided to organize a massive imperial rabbit hunt. He fully intended to showcase the emperor's absolute power over both men and the wild natural world. The chosen location was a remarkably beautiful, sun-drenched estate right outside the capital city. Wealthy French nobles and highly elite military marshals gathered to witness the truly glorious event. Berthier wanted absolute perfection. He needed thousands of rabbits for the mighty emperor to hunt down. However, trapping elusive wild hares in the deep, dark forests was a very difficult and incredibly slow process. Driven entirely by bureaucratic laziness, he made a careless decision that would end in total disaster. Instead of wild woodland hares, Berthier simply purchased 3,000 ordinary domestic farm rabbits. These were incredibly tame animals, raised entirely by humans and fed daily with delicious fresh cabbage. They had absolutely no natural fear of sudden loud noises, deadly weapons, or marching human soldiers. The truly tragic irony is that the greatest military planner completely ignored basic animal instincts. Berthier carefully placed the huge wooden cages along the edge of the remarkably vast, grassy hunting field. The grand stage was finally set for a truly magnificent display of French imperial sharpshooting. Napoleon arrived in his pristine uniform, projecting absolute authority and perfect calm. He stepped onto the vibrant green grass, holding a fine, ornate musket, fully ready to begin the majestic hunt. Would you ever truly suspect that a remarkably simple hunting trip could shatter an emperor's dignity? The heavily armed elite guards stood at strict attention, their glittering medals catching the morning sunlight. A dramatic and tense silence fell over the royal estate as everyone waited for the emperor's signal. Berthier proudly raised his riding crop into the air, ordering the servants to open the heavy wooden cages. Thousands of cage doors swung wide open at once, instantly releasing the massive and unpredictable furry horde. The elite generals expected the animals to scatter in pure terror across the beautifully wide open fields. They eagerly prepared to shoot the running targets, showcasing their vastly superior military training. But the 3,000 domestic rabbits surprisingly did not run away into the dark surrounding woods. Instead, they calmly looked directly at the imposing line of armed men standing across the sunny meadow. Historians carefully note that these farm animals associated humans strictly with their daily feeding time. Seeing the great Napoleon Bonaparte, the hungry rabbits assumed he was merely bringing them fresh food. Thousands of little noses suddenly twitched in unison, signaling the start of a truly bizarre assault. Suddenly, the entire massive colony surged forward like a fluffy and completely unstoppable tidal wave. The solid ground vibrated deeply under the combined weight of 3,000 hungry and excited little creatures. They did not charge with vicious teeth or sharp claws, but merely with an overwhelming and innocent hunger. Napoleon quickly raised his weapon, entirely confused by the incredibly strange behavior of the prey. The majestic emperor of the French stood utterly frozen as the surging sea of fur rapidly approached him. The most brilliantly strategic commander in history could not calculate a proper defense against this. Could wild and unpredictable nature truly humiliate even the most powerful dictator in the entire world? In mere devastating seconds, the distance closed. The imperial hunting party was completely surrounded. The highly bizarre Battle of 1807 had officially begun, and the humans were rapidly losing. The rabbits forcefully crashed into the emperor's legs, instantly swarming over his polished leather boots. They climbed his royal uniform with shocking speed, desperately searching for the vegetables they expected. Napoleon tried to step back, but the vast volume of animals made any escape entirely impossible. He frantically shook his heavy legs, kicking the air, but the fluffy attackers simply held on even tighter. His iconic bicorn hat was knocked sideways as he flailed his arms in absolute, helpless, and total panic. Chief of Staff Berthier watched in absolute horror as his terrible bureaucratic mistake finally unfolded. He frantically waved his riding crop in the air, desperately attempting to protect the most powerful man in Europe. But Berthier dared not strike them too hard, deeply fearing he would ruin the royal hunting experience forever. The highly elite generals, conquerors of nations, were quickly reduced to swatting away small, fluffy bunnies. They awkwardly used their expensive velvet jackets and heavy sheathed swords to forcefully push the endless horde back. The clever animals suddenly divided into two wings, easily flanking the emperor's central position. It was a truly perfect pincer movement, executed entirely by accident by hungry domestic pets. Napoleon's beautiful uniform was now covered in mud, dry grass, and hundreds of loose animal hairs. The great conqueror was panting heavily, entirely overwhelmed by the endless sea of twitching little noses. He dropped his incredibly expensive hunting musket, realizing that deadly bullets were completely useless here. Some incredibly brave rabbits even climbed right up to his waist, demanding the imaginary cabbage. His loyal guards shouted, swinging their arms wildly but completely failing to break the relentless animal siege. The sudden loud chaos only made the rabbits far more determined to reach the great man they firmly thought fed them. How could a brilliant genius who defeated massive empires fail to predict such a basic natural instinct? Exhausted and deeply humiliated, Napoleon realized he had lost this ridiculous battle. For the very first time in his legendary career, the truly fearless emperor issued an order to retreat.
We must retreat!
He swiftly turned his back on the fluffy enemy and began sprinting toward his gilded royal carriage nearby. But the aggressive swarm did not stop. They chased their retreating target with absolute and pure determination. The unbelievable sight of the supreme leader running for his life from tiny pets was tragically comical. This bizarre event was no longer a royal hunt. It was a desperate struggle for the mighty dictator's dignity. Napoleon reached the carriage, hastily scrambling up the velvet steps in total desperation. He frantically threw himself onto the luxurious seats, gasping for air while trying to compose himself. But the incredibly fast rabbits had already followed him, bravely leaping right into the royal cabin with him. He desperately had to kick the furry creatures out the window as the majestic horses began to gallop away. The royal carriage sped off into the distance, leaving behind a completely bewildered group of elite military marshals. Berthier stood entirely alone in the sunny meadow, his proud career forever tainted by this deeply absurd event. The innocent rabbits simply returned to eating grass, entirely unaware of their grand historical victory. This deeply humiliating defeat was heavily censored by the strict imperial propaganda machine. Yet, modern historians uncovered the shocking truth, exposing the truly fragile nature of absolute power. Napoleon built an untouchable godlike image, supported by flawless military tactics. He firmly believed he could easily control the entire continent, bending both mighty nations and nature to his iron will. However, this comical disaster proves that harsh reality is totally chaotic and unpredictable. The powerful dictator's greatest threat actually comes from pure and absolute bureaucratic stupidity. By surrounding himself entirely with lazy flatterers, the Grand Emperor engineered his own spectacular downfall. The innocent animals simply acted on their basic nature, exposing the hidden weakness of human empires. 3,000 hungry domestic pets accomplished in mere minutes what the greatest European kings simply could not do. They made the great invincible Napoleon run away in absolute and undeniable terror. This truly bizarre event perfectly proves that absolute power cannot control the pure chaos of nature. Was this just a remarkably funny mistake, or a very deep warning for all future dictators? Tell us below. If you truly enjoyed this hidden historical truth, please like, share, and subscribe for more epic and thrilling tales.